You are not unlucky in love. You are just underestimating what you actually deserve. Same story, different face, different name, not because you're cursed or unlucky, because somewhere along the way you decided this was what you deserved. And every relationship since has quietly been proving you right. I am not here to comfort you about this. I'm here to show you exactly where that belief came from and how you actually rewrite it. The mechanism behind this is simpler than it sounds, and it starts earlier than you think. That's not a character flaw. That's a well worn groove, and grooves can be redrawn. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why you keep ending in the same relationship dynamic with different people wearing different faces. And I'll give you the real starting point for actually rewriting it. I am Zarina. I've spent over 15 years deeply invested in my own growth, training, studying, doing the real work. I'm a certified coach, and for the past 10 years, I've worked in tech, product design. I train the body, yoga, meditation, dance. And quantum living has become a genuine passion of mine. Relationship patterns sit at that exact intersection of everything I work with because they're not just a mindset issue and they're not just who you date issue, they live in the body, in identity, in energy, all of it at once. Here is the actual mechanism, and it starts earlier than you think. The way you first learn to receive love as a child from the people who raised you becomes the template your nervous system uses to recognize love as an adult. If that early template was warm and consistent, your system tends to expect that. And relationship that offer it feels right. But if that early template was inconsistent, distant, or came with conditions, here's the strange part. Your nervous system doesn't necessarily go looking for the healthy version later. It goes looking for the familiar version because familiar reads as safe, even when it isn't actually good for you. This is why a woman can consciously want a calm, secure relationship and still feel a little bored, a little unconvinced by someone who actually offers her exactly that. While someone unavailable or inconsistent feels like chemistry. That's not chemistry. That's your nervous system recognizing an old familiar shape. Research on this is actually striking. More adults land somewhere on a spectrum from secure to insecure attachment, and a meaningful share of people care patterns that quietly shape who they're drawn to again and again without ever consciously choosing it. Now, this template doesn't only form in early childhood, sometimes it's built later through relationships or seasons of life that quietly wore down your sense of what you deserved long after childhood ended. Either way, the mechanism is the same. Your system starts treating familiar as worthy, and settling starts to feel like a choice and more like reality. And here is the identity piece. Because this connects to something I've talked about before, once you've experienced this pattern a few times, you start collecting evidence for it. This always happens to me. I always attract this. That belief doesn't just describe the pattern anymore, it starts building your next relationship before you even met the person. I know this pattern intimately because I lived it myself. For a period of time in my life, I found myself in relationships where I wasn't treated the way I deserved to be. And the hardest part isn't that it happened, it's that I simply accepted it. Not because I didn't know how or I didn't know better, because somewhere underneath, my sense of my own worth wasn't strong enough yet to demand more. This wasn't childhood, and this wasn't some early wound I could point to and explain away. It was simpler and at the same time harder than that. I hadn't yet built the self worth that would have made accepting less than I deserved feel impossible. Once I saw that clearly, that the pattern wasn't about the people I kept choosing, it was about what I believed I was worth. That's when it actually started to change. Let me make this concrete because attachment pattern can sound abstract until you see it in an actual moment. It's choosing the person who runs hot and cold over the person who's steady because steady feels quietly like nothing is happening. It's staying quiet about what you need in a relationship because somewhere you learned that needing things was what pushed people away. It's testing people, consciously or not, to see if they'll leave because some part of you is still braced for the answer to be yes. None of this is a weakness. It's a nervous system doing exactly what it learned to do a long time ago to keep you safe in a very different set of circumstances than the ones you're in now. So, how do you actually change this instead of understanding it? Three stages: notice, trace, rewrite. Stage one: notice. You cannot rewrite a pattern you haven't caught yourself running. This stage is simple, but it's not easy. Start noticing without judgment the moments where an old relational habit shows up. The urge to chase someone who's pulling away. The instinct to shrink a need down to almost nothing before you even voice it. The boredom that shows up around someone healthy and consistent. Just notice. Don't fix it yet. Naming it is the whole first stage. Stage two: trace. Once you can see the pattern, ask where it's actually coming from. Not to blame anyone or anything, but to understand the logic your nervous system is running on. Ask yourself, when did I first start believing this what I deserve? Or what closeness was supposed to look like? For some women, that traces back to childhood. For others, it traces back to a season of life or relationship that quietly eroded their sense of worth later on. You don't need a full excavation to do this. Sometimes just naming this is where it started is enough to loosen its grip because a pattern loses some of its power the moment it becomes conscious instead of automatic. Stage 3: rewrite. This is where you deliberately choose the unfamiliar on purpose, even when it feels like nothing is happening. Rewriting isn't a single decision, it's staying with a boring, healthy option long enough for your nervous system to learn that steady doesn't mean unsafe, it just means unfamiliar. It's voicing one small need out loud, even when the old instinct says shrink it. It's noticing chemistry that feels like chaos and choosing to get curious instead of chasing it. Every time you do this, you're not just making one good choice, you're collecting new evidence. And slowly, that the new evidence becomes the new familiar. A few places to start this week. 1. Next time you feel intense chemistry with someone new, pause and ask, is this genuine connection or is this just familiar? 2. Practice voicing one small need out loud in an existing relationship, even if the old instance says stay quiet. 3. If a relationship feels calm and steady and slightly boring, give it a real time before deciding that means something is missing. That discomfort might just be unfamiliarity, not a red flag. You are not bad at relationships. You are not unlucky. You learned a pattern a long time ago in circumstances that no longer apply to your life. And patterns that were learned can be relearned. If this landed for you, subscribe. This channel is full library of exactly this: identity, energy, relationships, and everything it takes to build the next level life from someone who's actually lived every piece of it. Comment below what pattern you keep noticing yourself repeat. I read every single one. And if you know a woman who keeps calling it bad luck, send her this. She might need to hear it's a pattern, not a curse. I'll see you in the next one.